I'll be presenting on the replication depth at medic. Replication depth in the context of CHT is what we call when users have to download a copy of data into their devices. So returning all the contacts and the reports can be too much, and some of them might not be encouraged because of patient privacy or just because it is not part of their workflow. So some data might be too confidential, and sometimes these might not even need, they should just see a set of people or tasks or reports and even analytics based on the hierarchy level that they belong to. So when we talk of replication depth, we say that it helps us to restrict the amount of a specific user. So this is just like how much data should you be restricted to download into your device, just to make sure that your device has good performance level. So I'll take through and configured for CHT and terms that we had for the replication depth. So on the far left is an example of one of the projects that we have configured for. So this is their reporting structure. So at the lowest level, we have the persons and the households. So these are a number of households taken care of by a CHV, and this CHV is so the number of households that belong to one CHV, we refer to them as a CHV area, and a number of CHVs will be attached to a CHU. And the topmost, we have the DHMT team that is supervising CHV supervisors who are in charge of CHUs that has various CHV areas, and each CHV has a number of households that they are taking care of, and each household has also a number of households. So when we look at how this has been configured in CHT, at the lowest level, we have CHVs. So the CHVs can view the households, as we can see here. So they can view all the households and family members in their catchment area. And they can also see the tasks and the targets that are associated with these people. They can be able to submit either household person level reports for the people that they are in charge of. Then on top of them, just above them, we have the CHV supervisors. So these are the people who are in charge of the different CHVs. So they have an offline access to, and they can only see their respective CHU that they are in charge of, and they can also receive escalation tasks of these people that have below them. So if there is something that needs to be escalated from this person, it can be escalated to their CHV supervisor. And an example of a task that needs the supervisor is the death report confirmation, because so for this specific project, when a CHV reports her death for a person here, the supervisor is a death audit report. So these CHV supervisors, they can also view an aggregate in-app target for their CHVs. So at their level here, they can be able to see an aggregation of the work that the different CHV areas are doing. And then lastly, now we have the DHMT. So DHMT we give them access to the dashboard that they're in charge of, but also they have an online access to CHT, and they can view like all the CHUs that are below them. So that is an example of an hierarchy that we have configured. So as you can see, everyone here who is an offline user has been given access to just one level below them. So I'll now talk about the considerations that we make when we are deciding on the replication depth. So next slide, please. Esther. CHT aims to have an optimal level of performance for all the users. So this is for the CHVs and the supervisors, and also for the DHMT. So we want to make sure that everyone has an optimal level of performance, and they can be able to view all the data that they need. So for example, the CHVs who are at the lowest level of the hierarchy in CHT, they will need to get access to historical data of their households. And these CHVs, their role is mostly to do registrations and screenings and follow-ups in their areas. So you find that they have data in their devices because they need to record data and registration report pregnant throughout their pregnancy. So for them, they need access to all these data. But a supervisor also needs data, but their data is specific to the reports that they need to support them in their support and supervision function. So the supervisor might not need to see every other report, but they only need to see the report that they are going to use in their supervision. And sometimes this might need them to be able to access a patient that to confirm a death once it happens, so that they can be able to do a death audit report. So for a supervisor to be able to confirm that a death has actually occurred in the community, they will need access to that death that has been submitted, and also they need access to that person, although this person is not directly below them in the hierarchy. So because of all this, because of the data that is needed for the different people, you find that sometimes the device might have performance issues. So we have a number of features that we have developed that helps us to mitigate the performance issues. Online user, we only allow them to have not more than one level, not more than one level, not to see more than one level in their hierarchy. So for example, a supervisor who is an offline user, we only allow them to only see their CHVs only, but they are not allowed to see the patients and also the households. And this is to avoid them having to download too many reports that have been associated by the different households and also the persons. And sometimes, as I earlier said, these reports are not even needful for them. Other thing that we do to mitigate so this is the feature that allows us still, as I earlier said, the CHVs will need a lot of historical data for their work. So if we accumulate this data for a long time, it might also lead to performance issue. So we have a feature that we remove the unwanted or the data that is not needed as per that time. And then lastly, we have a feature that we call the supervisor sign up, where you find that some reports might need to be signed off by a supervisor, although this supervisor does not is not allowed to see the person that this report is about. And a good example is the death report. So yes, a supervisor is needed to confirm this death report, but in their hierarchy, they are not seeing the person that the data instance, then we have, this is now where this feature comes in to make sure that this supervisor now is allowed to see that specific report that they need to use for their supervision purposes. So that's all about the features that we have developed to mitigate the performance issues.
And happy to take you through replication depth, its configuration, and basically how it works, and then a quick demo of the same. So just to talk about its configuration, basically it goes into the app settings. By now, I'm sure most of us who have interacted with the CHT know what I'm talking about when I mention application settings. So depth is basically calculated with the baseline being the place that the logged in user belongs to. So if I log into the place that I am in charge of or I belong to, then that becomes a depth of 0. And then it goes on and on. So the deeper you go, the higher the number or the depth number that is specified in that application depth configuration. So if we can consider the example that Jennifer just talked about of a region, a supervisor region, and then onwards to a community health volunteer area, a household, and finally to a patient at the lowest level, then for a site supervisor, for a CHV supervisor who is assigned a region and is in charge of several community health volunteer areas, then we'd have something like that code snippet that I'm showing there. So it basically specifies the role and then the depth, which is a numeric value, takes on 0 all the way to the maximum depth that is possible as per the settings that you have. So how does this work? Next slide, please. Yes. So I have a table here that basically highlights the depth from 0 all the way to 3. Given that this is a hierarchy that we are talking about from the site to the supervisor region to a CHV area, and then a family where we have the family members or household members of patients belonging to. So if this supervisor had a depth of 0, then they would be able to download or access data to their level or to the region that they belong to. If the depth was updated to 1, then that means they will be in a position to access all the community health volunteer areas that they are in charge of, or the area they belong to is like grouping those CHV areas. And then onwards, if we have a depth of 2, we go all the way to the households and families. And then with a depth of 3, then we talk about the household of family members. Remember, for application depth to work, we are only dealing with offline access or offline roles, given that online roles have access to all the data within the application. So I want to do a quick demo on replication is basically getting that data into the user's device, and the depth basically restricts how much data you can be able to access in terms of both contacts and reports that you're able to view into the application. As a point to mention that replication depth applies to offline users, given that online users have access to all the data in the application. So with me here, I have a local instance that's running. I have a supervisor role and user that I'm going to log in with, and then we'll take us through what they're able to see and what they're able to, not to see. So under people, we see that they're able to go all the way to the CHV areas. They can view households and the household members, and that would include reports. That is if replication depth is not enabled yet or not configured. Now, you can also see here that there is one report, a test report that I pushed earlier on before the call. So as for purposes of this demo. So they're able to see or to view this report and can access it on leading to their day-to-day activities. Now, once replication depth is enabled, I'm going to do that using the procedure for enabling replication depth, which is what I have here, this array replication depth. I have the role specified and my depth is set to 1. This means that I can only see what I have under my place as well as the contacts that are under my place. So once I deploy this and push to my instance and log in again, then you will notice the difference that this user is no longer able to see, is no longer able to see what they saw initially. Are now restricted to not see reports as well as can only see a subset of the contacts that they saw initially. Oops. But I guess this hasn't picked up yet here. Right. So the expected behavior is that the report would not be showing. And under people, I'd only be able to see my region, that is the test facility, and the CHV areas, as opposed to going deeper into the hierarchy. Sorry, I need to check whether the settings are picked. Yeah, but that's it for the high level demo of this section. Yep.
There is a comment from Ken and I think Abigail. We can allow them just to share their thoughts before we continue with Ken's presentation.
Sure. Just an important detail. An important detail about replication depth is that if you change it after a user is deployed, so after someone has synced all their data, if you increase it or decrease it, that user needs to clear all their data off their phone and perform a clean initial replication. And so that's why Kitsao, the data wasn't showing as changed. You would need to wipe that data, clear your offline session, and sync again.
We have a few partners that have already tried changing the replication depth. I think we can give them an opportunity to share their experience. So we can start with Robert from LG. You can just take 3 minutes just to share the experience of changing the replication depth and what you learned from that. Then after that, we can have Victor also share experience from Muso deployment. So Robert, if you can hear me.
Thanks. Thanks, Anthony. I hope you can hear me. Yeah, this is Robert from Living Goods. So I will speak a little about our hierarchy and how our workflows, the specific work that need to pass through the replication depth limitations and a challenge we faced, and how we used the supervisors, the read sign-off feature to achieve that. So just like our partner who demonstrated earlier, our hierarchy is also a patient to VHT, which is a village health team member, to a supervisor. A VHT is in a way analogous to the CHW. So for some workflows, especially the muting and death reporting, you need a supervisor to approve. And since our supervisors have a replication depth of 1, meaning they can only download documents, they can only replicate documents for a level, only one level below them. They are not able to sign off or approve actions on contacts that are way below their hierarchy. So when we are trying to achieve muting approval and death reporting approval, we realized that with the supervisors having a replication depth of 1, once a supervisor approves, that action could not be replicated down back to the patient, and that's when we got the sign-off feature. So basically, you set in the settings needs underscore sign-off setting, and the documents that have that setting are able to pass through or to supersede the replication depth restrictions and get to the contact who needs them. So basically, that was our experience. We could not increase the replication depth as Uganda is one of our bigger areas with an increase in replication depth from 1 to 0 meant, from 1 to 2 meant an increase in documents from up to around 70 or 80,000, and that simply could not work. So that's why we used the need sign-off setting on the documents to achieve what we wanted to achieve. That's it from me, Anthony.
We can also give an opportunity to Victor from Muso to take 3 or 4 minutes or so just to share the experience. Not sure if you would like to share your screen.
Hi everyone. I can go ahead. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm Victor from Mali at Muso. So I think that we have a use case that is very similar for the ones from Robert. So I will try to resume what we are doing with depth replication. We use depth replication in 2 levels of our hierarchy. In this level and this other level. In this level, the is the level of the supervisor. So we are limiting the replication depth to 1 in order to limit the number of dogs to sync by the user that are attached to this place, the supervisor. So like this, our supervisor user have only access to these 2 contacts, the CHW areas and the supervisors. And that works very well for us. But we have asked in the forums for some improvement, and it is because we will want to be able for the user, for the supervisor that is here, we will want to be able to access to the community health worker itself. I mean the person, not to the area. But we want at the same time that the household keep inaccessible for the supervisor. We have found some workaround to do the replication depth 2 and to limit the number of reports of the household. Use another parameter that is report depth 1. But it is not, it works fine, and the supervisor can edit the community health worker. But because we have a lot of community, we have the health areas that with no internet and some health areas with no telephone at all. So they are in the community with no communication. So if the supervisor needs to change, because one community health worker is not working with us, or there are some changes, the supervisor itself is not able to change the this person here. So this is the improvement that we have asked. So we have proposed to have another configuration parameter for in the same way that we have report depth and depth to have two contact depth, to have people depth and place depth. But medic developer, I think they think that this will have some performance issues. So we have been speaking about to have another configuration parameters in order to have here depth one, but have some parameter configuration parameter that we can have a replicate a primary contact. So we could have access to primary contact here. I'm not sure if we need only primary contacts or it will be better for us to have all persons here, all persons here, because in some cases we have that one CHWB area have two community health workers, but they don't work at the same time. Sometimes this will be the primary contact, sometimes with the other will be the primary contact. If we could have all of persons, the possibility to replicate all of persons, but to keep the depth to one, it will be very great for us, because in our organization they don't want that the supervisor has the ability to access the family. They want that the community health worker is the only one that manage families. Donc, this is our use case. I think, Anthony, that is all for me.
Thanks, Victor, and thanks for sharing that experience.
Maybe we'll hand over to Ken to talk about CHT test harness.
Yeah, sure. So the CHT test harness is a solution for writing automated tests against CHT applications. And so just a high-level overview, but you know, when you're making CHT applications, it can be a little scary sometimes to make changes, particularly in forms, because changing one component can break another. So manual testing, of course, is usually what people use in order to make sure that everything's working as expected. But manual testing is a bit error prone. It's a bit costly, and sometimes in the CHT, it can be a little difficult. You need to set your system time back and forth. You need to be creating new contacts for all your new scenarios. It's just a lot of clicking. So this is a solution that allows developers to write automated tests. And automated tests have a history in software for saving time and money over the long run. They're a proven tool for increasing quality of code. And so although CHT applications are simple code, usually it's still really valuable to make sure that it works. And tests are actually really useful for making sure that devs can work together. So it's harder to know that you're breaking someone else's tool, someone else's component, when you aren't the one who wrote it. So tests help people collaborate. And this is just a joke. Sometimes it can feel like, you know, you have all these nice, clean components, but building on X-forms can sometimes feel a bit like building on spaghetti. They're schema-less, everything's public, the UI and the data are coupled together. So it can be a bit difficult to build on top of these things. But tests are really effective tools for making them into clean building blocks with crisp interfaces for other components to build on top of. Next slide, please. So this is a tool for application developers. It's a library, a code library that allows you to write tests, integration tests, and unit tests. We commonly run it with Mocha and Chai, and then here are some commands. This is how you install it. There's a link to the documentation and a tutorial. But I'm just going to give an overview of what this thing is and what it can do, hopefully in under 5 minutes for those interested. So this is a tool for developers. Sorry, this is a big, scary black window for anyone who doesn't write code. But essentially, actually, are there developers on this call? Is it worthwhile to go into a code level overview, or should I just stay higher level than that?
I think high level would be better.
All right, maybe we'll just skip the code. We're also, I know we're running out of time. So yeah, so some areas of interest, here's some buzzwords that people maybe like, but you can use this for continuous integration. So gating check-ins and ensuring quality before you merge and deploy with GitHub Actions. This supports kind of code coverage, or you can even do code coverage gates. So ensuring that you have a certain level of automated coverage for your application code. It supports debugging through applications code, which is actually hard to do in the CHT, and is a really useful learning tool for developers. And it actually is versioned along with CHT core. So you can say, I want to run these tests on version 3.10, 3.16, 3.19. And so it allows you to confirm the impacts of upgrades. And if there is a breaking change in it or a bug fix in an upgrade, making sure that your code is still working as expected. So we just released the 3rd version of the CHT comp test harness. There was a breaking change in the harness that matched the breaking change in core. And so basically the breaking change that we made is that your tests are going to fail in the harness if they're also not going to work in CHT4. And so this is a very useful tool that can be used when you are ready to make the upgrade to CHT4. There was this change in Keto and how we render forms. Some of the logic in forms can be very difficult to go through large projects and find everything that's been impacted. And so test coverage is a very useful way in order to do that and to make that easier. So that's an exciting announcement from those working on the harness. But if you are still using CHT Core 3, then you should continue to use the CHT harness 2. That's all from the harness.
My question is, and this is something that came up in the forum recently, where there was a question recently on the forum with the data analysis revealed that one specific task, instead of being completed when a report was submitted, actually the task had been canceled, and all of the other tasks in the flow were also canceled. It was very hard to understand what was happening, and I basically started looking into the whole configuration that that project was running, and ultimately ended up looking at the purge function. And it turned out that the report that generated the flow of tasks had been purged. So one of the requests there was if it's possible to integrate the purge function in the project if it exists, and analyze what effect it has on tasks and all the other configurations that are tested with harness. Thank you.
So yeah, this was a question from Victor on the forum. And yeah, purging is a bit of a scary thing. It's not reversible and it can break workflows. And so making sure that the way that you've configured tasks doesn't break tasks or targets is actually kind of hard to get right. We don't do a great job of supporting purging in the harness, but it's something that we've talked about adding. I would love to add it. If you go to this forum post, there is sort of a solution for how to combine the harness with a unit testing pattern for purging, just to make sure that that code is doing what you're expecting. And then a little bit about a specific solution that would work only for Muso, or in order to have them write tests in this pattern. Victor, you asked the questions. I'd wonder, I'd love to hear if you tried that or if it worked out for you. But it would be lovely one day to support this in the harness, and it's certainly an achievable thing.
Yes, we are. It's not me, but our team is trying to use the solution that you have pointing in the forum. So at this moment, I cannot tell you if it works for us or not, but they are trying.
I would love to hear more as it unfolds.
I think that should work, but I think that should work for us. But if we can, if we can filter or purge reports before to ask Harner for the task, it should work. But we have not implemented yet. But they are trying to do it. We will let you know if we can do it. We will let you know at the forum.
Lovely. Thank you.